Today is my 40th birthday, and I've had this week off leading up to today on vacation, ample opportunity to reflect, to prepare for today, but I must admit that therefore this will likely be more of a general reflection in context of today's readings than a well-prepared homily. Turning 40 makes me old to some of you while still really young to others. But by definition, I believe I am now middle-aged and no longer eligible, as we constantly hear the announcements in the Archdiocese, I am no longer eligible for young adult Catholic events. But worry not, there will be no midlife crisis unless conducting a capital campaign counts. And Father Stephen does not need to worry about any Lamborghinis showing up in our garage. But round numbers do bring about long-term reflection. And so, as I stand here with you, the very place my life is devoted to, I can't help but think of back when I was installed as your pastor, when Cardinal DiNardo made a joke about how I might seem young for this post. But if anyone wondered if I was experienced, to just ask him. He was, of course, making a joke about the things we faced together during my time in the Chancery. I think it was his way of saying that, like dog years and priest years, I'm now much older than my actual age. And in that same vein, I can simultaneously say it's hard to believe I've been ordained for 8 years, while on the other hand, a lot of days it seems more like 30. As a priest, I have encountered so much goodness in people, and certainly so much goodness in God, and have seen His grace powerfully at work. I have also stared into the face of the enemy and watched him wreak havoc on souls and on the church through the weaknesses of men. And it's very easy to look around and see things that aren't right, to see wrongdoers and ask, why doesn't God set things right? He's sovereign, so why doesn't He do something about it? In the words of Psalm 82, "Arise, O God, judge the earth, for yours are all the nations." This line of thinking makes the parable from today's gospel frustrating. God, just pull up the weeds already. Is God lazy? Or is His strength, His might, the source of His mercy? We heard in the first reading, though you are master of might, you judge with clemency, and with much lenience you govern us. For power, whenever you will, attends you. I have a vivid memory of one day while I was in seminary of praying the divine office. And knowing the particular psalm, it must have been daytime prayer, so it wasn't being prayed communally, but I remember sitting in the chapel and praying from Psalm 7, "The Lord will pass judgment on the peoples. Judge me, Lord, according to my righteousness and my integrity." And I remember as I prayed these words, the prayer of the church, the prayers of Scripture, the prayers of the psalm, being horrified. And I suddenly drew back and said, "No, you fools! Who wrote that down? Don't listen to that, God. Ignore that prayer. Don't judge us yet. I'm not ready." Indeed, we find in the Psalms in the Old Testament often prayers and pleas for God to bring His judgment now, to smite the evildoers. Of course, coming from a sense of righteousness that was ignorant of the fact that we are all sinners. No, Lord, don't bring your judgment yet. I may not like the outcome. We're always ready to see the weed that needs to be yanked out. But are we too quick sometimes to assume that we are the wheat or a fruitful plant? What if I'm a weed? God is just, and he is merciful. And all, as the parable concludes today, will ultimately get their due if they do not accept his mercy and grace and be changed. But for now, God is mercifully patient. We live in God's time. All we need to do is think of all the sinners turned saints amongst some of the famous